Welcome back. This is the Daily Brief. We'll be crossing over to Baraka Karama in Kisumu just to listen in over the fact that a number of students in that particular area have been arraigned will be arraigned today due to matters, arson charges which have been leveled against them. Baraka Karama, tell us what this is all about and the kind of defense some of these students have put up, if you have those details.
Well, Ian, remember on the 9th of July this year, students of Kisumu Girls High School went on rampage, destroyed several properties, running into several amounts of money. And because of that, the institution made a decision to close the school indefinitely. And on the 16th this month, the students were called back by this institution, and quite a number of students were expected to report with a sum of 2,000 and 5,000 shillings, respectively. That is Form 1 and 2 students were expected to report with 2,000 shillings, and Form 3 and 4 were also ordered to report with 5,000 shillings. So upon investigation that was carried out by County Director of Education, who had formed a special team to investigate the incident that occurred in that particular institutions, the management of the institution yesterday arrested 7 students in regards to the riots that occurred in that particular institution. And today morning, just some few hours ago, 7 students have been arraigned in court. They appeared before Resident Magistrate Justice Ngarngar, who charged them with 3 counts, among them destruction of property, creating disturbance within that particular institution, and also damaging the institution's the car belonging to the principal of that particular institution. According to Ngarngar, is that the students were found guilty by causing damage and creating disturbance within that particular institution on the July 2nd this year. So, of course, Justice Ngarngara said that the students were released on a 50,000 bond with the surety of the same amount, and the case will be heard again on the August 7th this year. So, of course, remember during the visit by the Education Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed, she said that the students who will be found guilty in regards to the particular offences within that particular institution will be charged accordingly, and they were treating that matter as a criminal offence. So, of course, right now I can confirm that Kisumu Girls High School students, 7 students, are among the first lot of students within the expansive county of Kisumu that have so far been arraigned in court in regards to the various skirmishes and unrest that were witnessed in this particular county. Remember, 9 schools were closed indefinitely following the unrest that rocked several schools within the expansive county of Kisumu. So, of course, Ian, we're still taking a look into that particular story of the unrest of schools, and we'll give you an update information as far as that particular story is concerned. Ian.
Thank you very much, and I'd like my panel to react to this, because the children being arraigned, comes at a time when we just saw the Education Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed read out the Riot Act to the students with some what others have described as punitive measures. What is your take on this, Justice? We're going to be seeing quite a number of them in court this week. Baraka Karama confirms that some from Kisumu Girls High School have already been arraigned. This is
what I call treating the symptoms and signs. Yeah. And overlooking the actual root cause of the cancer within the body. But of course, as they address these things, because sometimes also it's good to judge by the fruits, the measures that we've been taking, are they bearing fruits? Because these riot acts, Matiang'i read them more and visited schools himself. Actually, he was more active to a point of, he brought in very extreme measures to address the same issues that we're talking about.
And Justice, if the Riot Act is anything to go by and these students are found guilty for those charges, then that means they'll be held culpable for life, because these details will be also captured in their living certificate.
Exactly, Ian. It's actually the entire process now actually has changed focus from the purpose of education. Now you're turning these children into criminals, because the moment you charge them, and you know how our court environment are, and people go into court, and you see the high rate of recidivism, because even through the court process, is not correctional facility per se. And I have always insisted and said that let's raise the children in the manner that they should go. Ian, there's this fact that normally a law, when it is enforced or when it compels, any other recipient person who received the force, whether it is good or bad, always rebel. And the best way of how to enforce the law is self-enforcement. And these are the things we've been talking about. Raise a child in the way they should go when they're young, and they will not depart from those ways. The moment parents subjugate responsibility of educating their children to the state, and look at this, how the state is educating the children. State has certain measures. They've turned schools, now they are looking like a correctional facility where people are isolated and are held there, and then you follow some rigorous programs where there's no caning. Remember, those were the old state recommendation. And now the children are going ballistic. So
do you have any other suggestion as to how we should deal with the children? I'd like us to go very quickly.
As they address these matters,
if
the school, as school stands, one, teachers need to really work together with the students. They need to listen to the students, because the moment a child goes to rampage and burn the place where he sleeps and the place, the place that he eats from, and then do all this major destruction simply because they're not being listened to. So if the system is really not addressing or attending the interests of children, then why are we talking about the system? We need to look at it and evaluate it, and if possible, where it needs to be overhauled, we should be overhauled, because, Ian, we're not experimenting with these children.
Thank you, Justice.
Once they're messed up, they're messed up.
Michael, and you were sort of against the Riot Act that was read, because from your last argument, I don't know whether it still holds, that we should not hold these children on something they did right now, they have done right now, to determine their future. What do you make of that? Is that still your own take?
I totally hold on that thought.
Yeah.
And I want to also say to the students, siya funzo na mamae, mafunzo na dunia. The truth of the matter is you cannot expect to ban the school and not to be held responsible and culpable for it. However, the Rioting Act that was read by the DCI, the director of DCI, and the Rioting Act that was read by Professor Magoha, who is the chairman of examination body, and also the Rioting Act that was read by Ambassador Amina Mohammed, the Minister or the CS of Education, to me, I think was done in a haste, it was done in bad faith, and it was not supposed to counsel the students, but it was supposed to threaten them. Ian, kids cannot be threatened. When you threaten them, they want to dare you. Remember that you're making this statement in Kisumu or Nairobi, and the kids you're talking about are the ones that are in Suba. They have never seen Amina Mohammed, and they do not know the veracity and the seriousness of the repercussions that comes after they've done this thing. Remember, and I'll argue again, that I think we are indeed treating the symptoms, as my brother Juma has said. I think we need to listen to these kids and find out exactly what is the problem. And once we find that, the ministry must not say that the delocalization will continue, whether you like it or not. When you say that already 31 schools have been torched, and even more, some of them have been threatened, have been closed down, the question is, are you treating the symptom or are you treating the real problem? I think the ministry have to review some of their policies in regards to this delocalization of head teachers. And even if they want to insist on it, there is a systematic way of doing it within time.
Okay.
Another thing that we must really accept is the kids of today are not the kids of yesterday, where we went to school. The way they reason and the exposure and the amount of information they have is so much that we cannot just bury our heads down and hope that they do not know. And that is why we are having this problem, because the ministers and our team and Minister of Education and TSC think that the kids do not have this information. They have this information and they're just reacting on their rights. We've brought the human rights issue in this country up to a certain level. These kids know their rights.
Okay,
and I think the policies must be reviewed to solve the problem. And we cannot insist that if it's delocalization, it has to continue. No way.
Dennis, and of course this is also an issue of matter security. How else do you think government and even the ministry, to be specific, should deal with those who are found culpable of the ongoing schools unrest across the country? And I'm referring to the students here.
First of all, I read this with, you know, a lot of sadness in my heart, because then we have actually turned schools to be some sort of prisons. And the CS and everybody else really, they should hand over this ministry to the Inspector General of Police, so that then if our desire is to punish our children, then let's take them to jail for 3 years, then, you know, we get them as reformed convicts, because that's the way we are running education in this country. We first of all have to relook at our goals of education, and they're very clear. I believe in justice, but not punitive justice. We should look at a powerful form of justice that we call restorative justice. And if you look at restorative justice, it's an approach to discipline that focuses on repairing harm through an inclusive process that engages all stakeholders. And then we bring in restorative practices in schools. And if you look at that, it is on bringing respect, responsibility, and relation building and relationship repairing. The truth is that our children are trying to communicate something. You're not hearing. They will ban the schools to try and get your attention. So if you bring in punitive systems of justice, what are you doing? You're doing them more harm. The Ministry of Education needs to stop talking down on our children. They are not convicts, they are human beings. We take them to school so that they can be better people. Every practice in this country is called a discipline. So, you know, we don't want rejects at the end of 8 years or 12 years or whatever it is. We don't want people who are so bitter and we can't repair them. The education system in school in this country needs to relook at itself. No wonder we are producing more corrupt and more thugs.
And the question on the table is how to now deal with, you know, perhaps punishment to those who are found guilty right now in schools.
You know, again, who is guilty between the education system and our children? It's the education system. If we should punish anybody, we should punish our education officials. You know, how do you take kids to a school and tell them, don't talk, don't do anything, don't respond, you have no feelings, what we tell you becomes the law? I mean, you don't even treat animals like that. Okay. If you even try and treat a dog like that, it will bite you.
Is the way to go fast.
What I'm talking about, Ian, and before I finish, is that we need to bring in an inclusive system in school. We have Parents Teachers Association, but we never have Children Teachers and Parents Association, that the children can sit down and say, look, we think this is the right way for us. Please, can you listen to us and all that? So we need to bring in restorative practices so that we can build human beings who are 360, but not dejective human beings who are bitter with life and balance.
Let me hear from you. And of course, we're reacting to the fact that quite a number of students across the country are actually this week expected to be arraigned in connection to the ongoing schools unrest that has hit most parts of the schools. And we shall also be crossing over to listen into a press statement by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i. But Denny, go first.
Well, for me, the problem trickles down to the lack of engagement of all stakeholders. And the way Dennis puts it, rarely are our students talked to and let them give responses to what they are going through. And you realize that we are living in the internet age, you know. Most of the children in schools nowadays have lots of information, even more than their parents. And you see, when it comes to the communication bit of it, the schools of today are being run like the days when we went to school. I mean, if a system is changing, and you see the society is alive, the schools also need to be changing. And let the schools come up with policies in which they can incorporate the changes that are happening in the society today. So the fact that these children are not being talked to, the fact that these children cannot bring feedback from what they are going through in school is the reason why they have to do something to get your attention. As we've put it, these children are being dared. And if you dare someone, definitely a rebellious act will come through so that they can show you that indeed there's nothing that you're telling them. But you see, in regards now to the corrective measure that is being taken, I mean, taking children to court and having them convicted for the acts of arson and all that. For me, I think that the problem starts with the fact that the guidance and counseling department in most schools has failed. I mean, most of the teachers running these departments either are not qualified to do so, or they are giving misguided information to the students.
Just as a pressing issue to say before we take a short commercial break, we're also finishing on this.
Right, just to qualify the fact that they're addressing symptoms.
Okay.
you see, education is about interest. And education also is a way by which the society induct their young ones into the society to take over. Because the society, the old one always goes, and the new one always comes. And society is complete, is multifaceted. Society is not just having academia only. The society has talents. Society has religious belief. It has its own traditions. It has its own culture and its own norms. And then the global community of society, as we talk today, also has brought it out. I think that's what we are talking about, internet age. And when you talk about interest, there's the interest of the child, there's the interest of the parent, and there's the state interest. And what is the state interest? Ian, this is a constant. I mean, this is a clear fact that remains a constant of any given government, that all states always want servants. And that is the interest of the state. And look at even the emphasis that the state has put on various subjects that it is teaching. You will find they neglect talents, they even neglect character formation, they neglect religiosity, or even your own culture and your tradition. They bring and focus more on servitude. Yet, the interest of the child might not be wanting to be a servant. Maybe somebody is looking at Victor Wanyama and is just playing soccer. He's not an academia and financially stable. People are looking at it in different ways. So, Ian, the person who has the best interest of any child given is the parent, not the state. And if the parents do not take their responsibility, because as it stands legally in Kenya, it is the sole prerogative of the government to educate.
So
if you fail,
is this contrary to what Dennis was saying here, that perhaps the system has also pushed the children
that is the point.
To the edge? Okay.
The system...
And Dennis, I'll have you
yes,
respond to that.
The interest of the system is against the interest of the child and the interest of the parent. And the moment we look at this and bring back the participation, and this is what the state should do, and this we've suggested in numerous occasions, that the state should allow and give back the responsibility of raising up the children by empowering parents, primary teacher, so that when the child comes out, he just mentioned that asiye fundishwa na mama, fundishwa na, and in this case, these children are not being taught by their parents, they are being taught by the state. And as the state fails, who is being blamed?
Michael,
now we are putting blames on children, and we want to punish.
Kindly, and the point I'd like us to finish on is on the parenthood and where the parents are, and then Dennis, and then we wrap this up. Michael.
I'll just say one thing. Professor Matiang'i came, Dr. Matiang'i came when he was a CS of education and said, no visiting in school. Now, if that's one of the things that kids are saying, man, is this prison or not, that even our parents cannot come to see how we are learning, that is wrong. You've got to review those kind of policies.
Dennis.
Yeah, you know, first of all, I believe that we need to look at what we call the social discipline window and come away from, and actually shy away as a community from punitive to restorative. When a problem arises, we need to sit down and mediate in view or in lieu of building strong communities. When you become too coercive and too punitive, then what is the end result? What kind of a child do you want to grow? What kind of a child do you want to nurture? We must be educators even when we seek to punish. We must seek to restore a human being from a wayward behavior for them to become a responsible citizen. Throwing them into prison is not, actually we are degenerating the community.
Okay, thank you Dennis. Thank you, gentlemen. And of course we're reacting to the fact that quite a number of students will this week be arraigned in regards to schools unrest and cases of arson that we have seen hit most parts of the country. Quite a number of schools have remained closed since this broke out, including the very latest one being the Highway Secondary School as at last evening. We're now taking a short commercial break. We'll be right back to follow other developing stories as they continue to happen right here on the Daily Brief.